Good afternoon and welcome back, one and all. I am absolutely delighted to be joined this afternoon by past and one present presidents of the IFITT Association. And over the course of the next 40 minutes, we very much hope that we will bring you some insights on lessons learned over the years, the importance of the work of the association, how it all started, and maybe what lies ahead. So I would like to bring all of our presidents online now, please. Here they come, one by one.
Hi, everyone.
Isn't that something else? Welcome,
Hi.
everyone.
Hi, Josef.
When I initially made a note on my LinkedIn profile, I said, I won't be joined by one, I won't be joined by two, I will indeed be joined by 10 presidents for this little quick fireside chat. And I am indeed very, very excited to have you all here today. Now, as we only have a relatively small amount of time available to us, certainly time is of the essence, and we hope that we might be able to actually also take a few questions from the virtual floor, as it were. But so, as time is of the essence, I would very much like to ask each of you to introduce yourself and to let us know what the hottest topics were during your time of presidency. And maybe everybody can mute if they're not on. And I would like for Hannes, please, to go first. Tell us what the hottest topics were when you started out.
Hello, welcome everybody. I see on the screens that we all have eyeglasses now, which is somehow we had that 25 years ago. We were young and slim, and so some of you are still slim, Iis and Charlotte. The hottest topic, so welcome everybody. Hannes Werthner from Technical University of Vienna, retired already. I was the first president, and the hottest topic at that time was information technology and computer science in general. So this was the issue at the early beginning. I still remember we had the first conference in Innsbruck in Enter, 94, and there was a presentation by Beat Schmidt, and the audience stood up. Beat Schmidt spoke about electronic markets, and the audience partly stood up and said, what the hell is he telling us? And this is absolutely nonsense. And why does the Tyrolean Tourist Board organize such a nonsense? So this is 25 years ago. And so it was really the ignorance, partly by the industry, to this topic in general. It was driven at the beginning by IT guys and information systems guys. Some of you remember Armin Joa or Beat Schmidt. And we really did things like online streaming platforms 25 years before Netflix. We did multimedia. We talked about intelligent agents and how things like that happened. And a topic was really to integrate the different players. And I have to say that at that time, destinations were really at the forefront. They were innovators, I really have to stress. And industry was somehow a little bit reluctant. Airlines and tour operators, even if they have been first movers 20 years before that, so in the 60s, but they were stuck in their old mainframe technology and the old business models and did not understand what's really coming up. So we had the problem, and so we were more technology driven, not so much on management science driven. And we had as a strong partner were academics and destination, especially the Tyrolean Tourist Board.
Well done. Well, thank you. Well, you know, that's been the point of IFITT, as I understand it, having come on board a few months ago now and learned an awful lot, is that you were always at the forefront of pushing, you know, what the industry was thinking and doing. Josef, tell us a little bit about how it was from your perspective.
It's really good to see. Can you hear me now? Great. So hello, Charlotte. Hello, everybody. It's really a pleasure for me to see you again. I had a short contact with Hannes recently, but otherwise too long time no see, something like, I think, 4 years ago. So in Rome, I remember well, we got together, Dimitrios, Lorenzo, and everybody else. Yes, what was the strong memories? As you know, our mastermind from the very beginning was Hannes. Hannes had to be the first president because he invented the whole idea first of interconferencing and then of the association, and he was always a driver also with his intellect, with his as a researcher, as a university man. And now he said, okay, obviously he needs also an organizer, somebody from the management side, from the industry side, continuing what we all together started in Innsbruck, 3 interconferences in a row. And then he made a very courageous, a very brave move to Istanbul. I never forget Istanbul, if I have strong memories. What a challenge, yeah? First time in a totally different world to hold the conference. I remember also then under my presidency bringing conference overseas to Montreal or also to Cairo. Big enterprises, huge, I would say, adventures. But finally, it worked out, and we made it. So I was more in the field of managing things, finding new hosts, building a structure into the association, which then, after I think 2 years of interconference, was born. And so really moving this conference as a main place to be, gathering that created all the momentum for our association. Move it forward was the first years to do, find the money for that, and also then to conclude all these overseas adventures successfully was quite something I never forget.
Well, that was the cement, the foundation. That was the years of the foundation, which of course then subsequently other presidents have been able to build upon. So over to you, Lorenzo. Welcome. Lovely to see you as well. Tell us a little bit about what the sort of main topics were under your presidency, please.
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. I'm so happy and honored to be with all of you today. During my presidency, so I'm Lorenzo Cantoni. I'm professor at USI, Università della Svizzera Italiana, which is a public university in Switzerland, and I'm chair of a UNESCO chair devoted to information and communication technology, sustainable tourism, and world heritage. During my presidency, I stressed the idea that IFITT is a federation, like the Swiss Confederation, and so we launched the IFITT Talks as being events managed not from a central point, but managed by our members across the globe. And that was not my idea. I'm very happy. It was an idea of our members, but that worked very well and showed the creativity and the innovativeness of all our members around the globe. So I think also during my presidency, the digital technologies have entered deeply also within the educational practices, the e-learning, and especially through massive open online courses. And so we open a special focus on such opportunities to spread the voice and increase the quality of global education.
Fantastic. So I should say that the right order, I should have gone to Dimitrios before Lorenzo, as it were. I just realized, but it's okay. But so before, sort of the big focus, Lorenzo, for you was very much on the educational aspect of it. Dimitrios, lovely to have you with us today. I know you've been very busy, as everybody else, during the last 3 days, but lovely to have you on the panel today. Tell us then, if we go back to your presidency, tell us about the hot spots for you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I think going back, this is 27 years of Enter, and when Hannes, Armin, Joa, Seltzer, and Smith got us together, there was no internet.
Of course.
I didn't realize this thing. The IT function was a guy, the IT director was sitting in the corner somewhere, and nobody was really fixing computers. I think this guy had the vision to bring us forward. At the time, I was on my second year of my PhD. So we all got older together, and with Joseph and some of the colleagues that we started this stuff presented. And then before me, it was Andy Frew as the president, who was there for 6 years, and Andy contributed a great deal. I think during the 2010, 2014 kind of period where I was privileged to chair IFITT and to bring in other vendors, was really the consolidation of knowledge, because the internet bubble had burst and we were going to a new kind of reality. And what we did is we brought industry together, and we brought industry to make sure that technology was the driving force and was really empowering all the things that we were trying to do. And also, we started a lot of things with the young academics, and actually it's so pleasing to see so many people that they joined IFITT and entered at that time, driving. So it's kind of bringing everything together, and not only the scientific element of it, but also we became a club, we became a close society where we could support each other.
Wonderful. I think so far we've had foundation, we've had education, consolidation, you've been around before the internet, after the internet, and now we are here online. And I wish we were in Istanbul, if I'm honest, but this will have to do under the circumstances, of course, Cairo for that matter, any of the places that you have mentioned, but that time will come back for sure. Iis, I am delighted to see you here today. So far, I believe the only female president, but that's a good start. Many organizations don't even have one. So we're delighted that you are with us here today. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the hotspots were for you when you were president?
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. So I'm Iis Tussyadiah from University of Surrey, School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. I was president just before Phil, so that was from 2018 to 2020. I think, as Dimitrios mentioned, one of the key drivers of IFITT in terms of the knowledge production, and also I think the community building aspects of it, has been really our young academics. And so I think I see that during my presidency, of course, as well, the energy that comes from, the community of young academics working on research on IT and tourism. In terms of topics, I think what I saw during planning Enter 2019 and then 2020 is the move towards more the use of artificial intelligence, of course. And you can see, starting from 2019, we have lots of research going into that direction. And I personally was happy about the direction and how, as a community, we work together to actually shape the direction of the use of this technology and for the industry. And so that's how I see the previous 2 years has been. Now, last year, the topic was responsible e-tourism, and I'm really happy that this year, we've been actually working more diligently towards that direction, as we can see from all the keynote speakers that we have here. So we'll have to see that too.
Yeah, indeed. It has been an absolutely fantastic 3 days with just the most amazing insight from the students presenting their very creative idea right up to all of the major senior keynotes as well. Phil, last but not least, you've certainly had your work cut out. Talk about picking a presidency during this particular time. You and more than anyone has learned to be online in every aspect, but tell us maybe a little bit more broadly about your day-to-day role at the moment, please.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank all the former presidents for graciously joining us at this panel session. I think it's fantastic to bring everyone on board to give our community members a sense of history, right? This is really important. A side note, before I talk about myself, Andy Frew is the only former president we're missing here on the panel for some personal conflict of schedule. But he actually did contribute to this discussion by writing an essay with his critical reflection on the history of IFITT. including his role as the president. So I encourage everyone to go online to IFITT.org. There's a webpage called History of IFITT, and the essay has been published there. So
I'm sure, Phil, someone will share this in the chat in a minute. You wait and see.
Yes. For myself, my name is Zheng Xiang. I'm an associate professor in the Hospitality and Tourism Management Department at Virginia Tech, which is one of the major public universities in the US, and we're housed in the business school. I'm the current president of IFITT. This is my very first year serving as president. In addition to that, I also serve as the editor of a journal called Information Technology and Tourism, which actually is the direct product of this interconference and IFITT. So that's me. What are the hot topics? Well, of course, it's the COVID, right? And also for me personally, it's this conference. And we wish we had, we hope actually we have made it through and made it a successful conference. But on a kind of the larger scheme, the topic, the field of e-tourism, my sense has evolved very much, right? Tourism technology has become not a niche topic anymore. Not as the days when Hannes and Josef, they started, and Andrew, of course, started the discussion and conversations about technology. Now, technology is really a mainstream topic for this field, and even beyond. It's one of the major drivers of society. So this is sort of how I feel about in response to your question, what are the topics?
Absolutely. And yes, indeed, we have also, of course, seen that over the last 3 days. It always ends up evolving around technology, and that is how we evolve and how we have evolved over the last few years in particular. Now, Hannes, let's go right back to the beginning again with you. I turn my attention to finding out sort of what were the main considerations to actually start the IFITT Association and back in its day? And there must have been lots of things that influenced you. I can imagine some of you would have sat down initially and had a good old conversation about why there was, or why the association should be formed. So I'm sure you, being the godfather of IFITT, can tell us a little bit about that. You're muted, Hannes.
So now I'm unmuted. Thank you for the godfather. So I just want to go back because we had already 3 conferences and we had quite a response from academics, but also from destination and industry side. And then we realized that we should move from an individual organizational issue with the support of the Tyrolean Tourist Board to a broader basis, which I would say, okay, we had to stabilize it, we had to internationalize, and we had to integrate. And these were the 3 things we did. Internationalization was obvious an issue because we had many different colleagues from all over the world immediately joining. And integrate was on 2 layers. It was on the, let's say, integrating or bringing together academics, industry, and destination and public institutions, which were 3 different cultures, and you had to learn to speak those different terms and languages. And we had to bring together or integrate different disciplines, which is, we really learned to, let's say, in the interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary field to work, not only computer science, but management science, tourism research, statistics, management science, all the marketing, all those different things which were desperate on their conferences. And we succeeded to bring this together on the topic of the use of technology in the field of tourism. So this was somehow the idea. And not because you are here, Josef, but I think the special thanks not only goes to the intellectual power, but also to the support of Tyrolean Tourist Board, because they gave away a product they had created, because this was their product they had started. They gave it to an international community and said, okay, by giving away, we get back even more. So this is a sharing economy already at that time. And I don't want to forget that they were even sponsoring, because we had the first two Secretary General, Eva Heverle and Helene Forcher, who were with us and really organized the daily business. They were sponsored by the Tyrolean Tourist Board. So these were times when institutions had some freedom and really invest in not direct, let's say, efficiency consideration, but also having a longer term perspective. So this was the beginning, and then we came to Edinburgh, where we started the federation with the first persons on the board from industry, from destination, from academia. And I would like to thank all the others for following up the work, because otherwise we would not have a discussion of 25 years experience.
No, for sure. And I think, thank you very much, Hannes, that it's great to go right back to that early beginning. But also it resonates very much with these last 3 days, because we have spoken such a lot about collaboration and how actually an organization like IFITT very much ensures and pushes, for actually there being much more collaboration between all the different aspects, governments, research, the tourism industry, and so on and so forth. So this brings me nicely on to you, Josef. You need to unmute yourself, please. And I want you to talk to us a little bit about what the main challenges for an organization like IFITT actually is, and also how you have managed to stay, topical, I suppose.
Charlotte, thank you for this question as well. I forgot, obviously, earlier to introduce what I'm doing now. For 25 years, I was directing this Tyrol Tourism Board, which was, as Hannes said, a major supporter of all interconferencing and IFITT. And I think in total it was 8 or 9 interconferences that we were hosting in Innsbruck. And also the topics that I will never forget, besides all these conferencing experiences and adventures, was that at the very first years, I was not at all, as a tourism destination marketer, manager, was not at all very firm with all this IT movement that was coming. So our first big question, and where we were so happy that Hannes and everybody else, Dimitrios as well mentioned, Joe and so on, were coming to Innsbruck, discussing, really the worldwide community got together discussing what will be our World Wide Web. So the big question was, will there be 1, 2, 3 World Wide Webs? Where shall we go? And this question was clearly answered, and we knew what we had to do. And we were, some of you remember well, starting TIS@Web, this Tyrol Information System at the time that we have started already, but we were bringing it to the web earlier than everybody else, and so forth. So that was a big time. Then the second big question that really took us and kept us busy, and where interconferencing helped a lot, was the question of, when there was this kind of tourism information flood going online, will there be only lookers or also bookers? Huge question. We now forget all that, but at the time it was totally unclear whether there would be any client be risk to book his and pay his travel online. So that's also history. Third big issue, and then I stopped with all the topics, but it was really keeping us busy and highly interested, following all this interconferencing and research community as a touristic manager, was the mobile issue. Yeah. All this going mobile years. And I could say now, like 27 years later, that the interconference has showed me and my tribe something like 6, 7, sometimes 10 years earlier what is coming.
Yeah.
it took so long that it was really then getting into place. So I would like to thank all these researchers, community, and all the friends for the orientation and the inspirations they gave us with all the interconferencing. Well, and to answer your question is easy, because I was able to employ Helene Forcher then, and Helene was a mastermind in setting up with, as a general secretary, setting up a proper organization, designing, by the way, the IFITT logo and many other things to really design and shape this administration of the community. And I would like to congratulate you. When I was looking up the new web page and seeing what other activities around or besides interconferencing that the association does now, I would like to congratulate you. You have really moved IFITT forward a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been really great to see. Congratulations to the entire IFITT team that is moving all of those platforms forward. Research, I have been personally absolutely blown away over the last 3 days. This is quite a new little area for me to get so involved with in such a relatively short space of time. But my goodness, there is some unbelievable research coming out of this association. And that brings me nicely on to you, Iis. I would like to talk as a researcher yourself, of course. I had sort of shaped a question in and around, if you could maybe explain why there are fewer women in the field of research. You are our token godmother then, I guess, since Hannes is the godfather. But maybe really, rather than the kind of why are there fewer, maybe talk to us a little bit about why indeed things are also changing. And I think what I get is that IFITT is certainly addressing the balance. So does my question make sense?
Yeah, thank you. I think I will have perhaps 3 comments before I address your question. One is, I hope that there will be more in this, lineup now. I'm the only one, but hopefully that will change in the future. So I don't get asked questions about women anymore. Not that I'm not passionate about this. Of course, this is a topic that's very close to my heart, but I don't really do research on this area. And so hopefully this is going to change. Now, 2, I think talking about women in science or in research, we have to start, I think, being comfortable talking about uncomfortable things. And so now, if we're looking at the lineup here, I probably look the least competent IFITT president for some. I mean, if you slightly agree on this, I think then it is relevant to what I'm going to talk about later. And then 3 is, 2 days ago, inauguration of the first female vice president in the US. And so I'm hopeful that we are actually going into the right direction. So in terms of the roles of women in research, I think in research and also in education, there are differences, of course, in terms of the makeup of women researchers in STEM versus in social sciences. And we are a community where we do have a mix between researchers in computer science, or some more hard sciences, and in social science and humanities. And we see the difference in terms of, where women representation lies in terms of these 2. And then if you look at programs, tourism management or hospitality management, relevant to the domains that we are working on, we'll see also there are more women students, female students in the classroom than men. And so to me, when it comes to women in research, I think globally, based on UNESCO data, if I'm not mistaken, there are about 30% of women representing the research R&D overall globally, and that number is not as it's not that different in North America and Western Europe. So there is still kind of lag in there in terms of the representation of women in research. So three things. One is attraction, and then retention and progression. I think we are good so far in terms of attracting women to be more involved in research and basically taking academia as a career path. And but I think we need to be a lot better in terms of retention and progression, and especially with regards to academic, how can I say, to recognize, I guess, the achievements and so on. And to be honest, IFITT has been very supportive in the sense that, you know, I was supported by Lorenzo, who was you know, the president when I was vice president, and Lorenzo really trusted me to be able to continue the leadership with IFITT. And you know, during my presidency, we did have many young female academics working really hard to you know, grow the community and also contribute a lot to IFITT. So we have, you know, Estella, Irem, Lydia, they are still very active in IFITT too. So and to me, I think the key with academia in general, in terms of progression and how can I say, retention with women is being able to provide the support system, let's put it that way, because we do have challenges different to others. So, and now we only talk about women. There are other things, of course, that make experiences unique, right, as a researcher. So that's from my side.
But thank you for that, Iis. I really appreciate the insight. I can see the gents nodding as well. You know, I from, again, my experience with the association is relatively new, but I see that this is in many ways certainly one of those organizations that's very well balanced. And indeed, it's been a pleasure to sort of see the variety that is out there and through the various presentations and so on. Now, Dimitrios, we get to you. I know you are a man who keeps your finger on the pulse because I follow you a little bit on social media. And I am lucky enough that you follow me as well, I think. So there we are, two busy people on social media. In your perspective, putting COVID to one side, what are the sort of main industry topics at the moment, and why? Because I have to bring this in. Why should we lean on research?
I think over the years, what we learn is how to bring different approaches together. How, you know, when we started, the technology people were talking about technology, the marketing people were talking about marketing, the tourism people were talking about tourism. And over the years, we kind of managed to bring all these research together and synthesize all of those things together. And I think COVID has given us the biggest challenge in the last 35 years that I'm in tourism. And where we're going is we're going towards smart systems, ambient intelligence, where a lot of those things are coming together, and we need to kind of bring a multidisciplinary approach to problem solving towards going to the next stage. And I think that will be the biggest challenge, because as far as tourism is concerned, we're going to individualization, personalization, contextualization, and we really need approaches from different disciplines to come forward and support us with that, and support different stakeholders as well, because communities, they operate different ways, consumers operate in different ways, the industry operates in different ways. So we need to bring everybody together in smart frameworks to succeed in creating value for everybody.
And Dimitrios, I was the sort of the added value. Can you add a little bit on that?
Well, the added value of research is really showing the case. You know, Josef was saying earlier that, you know, that IFITT was kind of showing, and Enter was showing us 7-8 years later. I remember coming back from the first Enter back to England, and I had a URL, and I said, what do I do with that? www Yahoo. What do I do with that? And I went to a friend, and that's when her husband was an electronic engineering, you need browser. What the hell is browser? I think over the years we kind of brought knowledge from different elements. When I was talking to Hannes about what tourism industry was doing, Hannes was looking at me, but why do you do that? I said, where do you come from? We have been doing that for 50 years like that, and that's what the industry is expecting. And I think by talking to Josef, by talking to all the kind of colleagues who are there, and over the years, bringing all the tools together, we managed to get an understanding of the different disciplines, and also learning from each other, and bringing the multidisciplinary approach towards creating the value. And that's where the value added. The value added is in looking into the re-engineering of the industry to uncharted waters, because we are going to places where we've never been before. And, artificial intelligence coming forward, and machine learning and ambient intelligence, and nobody has actually prepared us for that. We are creating the future, and that's where research comes from.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's excellent insight. Now, Lorenzo, we're back to you. It's been a little while, and you also need to unmute yourself, which you have. Now, I know that your heart and work is very much invested in cultural heritage, because I looked into this a little bit. And what contribution has research made and continues to make in this area? We want to go a little bit deeper into the value of research here, I suppose.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for mentioning cultural heritage. I would stress first that cultural heritage is a major driver for tourism. So it's one of the most important reasons to travel to a place, to meet people, to understand different cultures, to better understand ourselves and our roots. And culture is also, and heritage is also a major driver for sustainability. Heritage stresses the fact that there is something of value which is passed from a generation to the future ones. So it's very important to make it sustainable, so also future generations can get access to it. I think research has contributed to this field in 5 areas, which I will summarize along the first 5 letters of the alphabet. So one is about access, so providing how digital technologies can provide access to good quality information and services about heritage and heritage tourism. And Dimitrios and others were mentioning the internet as being a major platform to make it accessible. But of course, research has stressed the relevance, for instance, on so-called localization. It's not only a matter of translation, but making sure that culture is made relevant to people with different backgrounds. And there are many other elements, so for instance, having multiple voices about heritage. There are heritage which are contested or which you can approach from different perspectives. And it's very important not having only one view on such heritage. Once at the destination, digital technologies play a major role. Think of mobile devices, the location-based services, augmented reality. So the IFITT community has made gigantic steps in the research in those fields, which have benefited very much the heritage tourism field. And then there is connect. So the C stands for connect, connection. Digital technologies help to connect the 3 major players in this game, which are the heritage, the cultural heritage itself on the one side, travelers and the locals, the local communities. And so through, for instance, social media, through sharing of contents, through campaigns, we can help keeping them together and not putting them one against the other. The letter D stands for disintermediate, and I think the role of open data, for instance, or the possibility also for small local players to get a reasonable profit out of heritage tourism is very important, especially for the emerging markets and the so-called global south. And then the last letter, E, stands for education. So digital technologies can be used extensively to train and upskill people in the field.
I think, again, we touch back in on education as being such a major part, and connected very much into sort of all things heritage. And one of the things that this association is doing is keeping a very close eye on that, and it is a topic that maybe even more has come to our attention over the last year and during COVID. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, that we learn to truly appreciate and look after everything. Now, Phil, as our current president, born in China, living in America, what role does IFITT play on a global scale? I mean, you are growing and growing. I think we've got more than 50 different nationalities represented here at the conference this year. So tell us a little bit about how you aim to stay relevant globally, maybe.
Am I muted? Nope.
Oh, you're good.
Charlotte, yeah, good question. And indeed, the community has changed a lot, right? The so-called complexion of IFITT and the interconference has changed a lot. If you look at the participants, look at the the membership, right? It's pretty much a global representation of whoever is interested in technology and travel and tourism. But I would like to kind of reflect upon how this culture, if you want, has evolved. I think Enter and IFITT has I feel it has a very welcoming culture, right? It's rooted, right, in a European kind of a way. But it's idea driven. It's not, we don't look at you as a someone who's young or who is woman or who is from a different country. There's a very, very open culture, a welcoming culture there. But I would like to, maybe for our younger generations, right? There's a strong European kind of the tradition, right? So from my own personal experience, when I started coming to Enter conference as this graduate student, right? You have to learn the culture, the language, to be able to adapt to, for example, if you want, maybe have a beer with other people, right? Well, this is important, really, really important. I believe many of our former presidents will agree with me on that, right? And we talked about so many research problems, issues over beer, right? Until say 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. So this is where you came from. But now, again, the complexion of IFITT Enter has changed so much. And I, as the kind of the junior, not in terms of age, but in terms of my tenure with IFITT, I feel there are many mentors who have helped me along the way, starting from Hannes, from Dimitrios, from Lorenzo, and later on Iis, and of course there were Dan Fessemeyer, there were the Pauline Sheldon, right, who have really contributed to this culture of this very coherent, cohesive community. But now, if you look around, right, I said earlier that the field has evolved, not just in the sense of the topics, in the ideas we care about, but also in terms of who participate in this kind of discussion and conversation, right? For example, if you look at the participants, there's a lot of people actually coming from Korea, China, Hong Kong, right, Taiwan, South America. And if you look at the chapters now, last year in 2020, actually, we established the brand new 2 chapters for IFITT, including the Africa chapter and also the Asia chapter. So the membership is expanding. in the past, we have done a number of things to encourage this global representation of IFITT. For example, through supporting participation from developing countries like ICT4D, which was started by Lorenzo, right? And those programs are important in driving, the interest and also benefit the communities around the world. What we are trying to do, this is something I actually inherit from Iis, right? We are like, it didn't happen, but now we're still, it is still on our agenda. Next year, we're going to take the Enter conference to China, right? And I believe that would be a very, very significant step toward embracing kind of a higher global representation of this community. So I believe I have inherited a really rich culture and rich history, and I feel the pressure, right? But I espouse that responsibility on everyone. It's not just us, but also every new and not old, but every member of this community, to come up with ideas, to stay active, to stay engaged, in order to actually make this IFITT community Enter conference a truly global community.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
It's evolving. Here's to another 30 years of IFITT, I think, and maybe we should make the President Fire Chat become an annual thing for return, so we can actually see what is being achieved and sort of what the major hot topics are and how everything evolves. Now, we are running out of time. It's amazing, isn't it? But that's how it goes. Now, I need some real quick answers here to a question for all of you. Dimitrios, I will start with you, please. So as we find our way through COVID, what is the role, and this can be, just your own personal opinion here, what is the role of technology in the recovery going to play, and how will IFITT contribute to the recovery?
I think in 1 minute, I think what you need is smart systems to understand where there are problems and where the infection is quite high, and then you'll see a lot of smart applications that are coming with kind of health passports and things like that to make sure that everybody is safe. Touchless technologies, engaging with a lot of different kind of stakeholders through your mobile without holding menus or without ordering things or without sharing pens and those things that they're simple in a way, but actually their penetration has not been there. And if we learn something from COVID, is that COVID has brought digitization about 5 to 10 years ahead, because we are all doing everything from home. We are all operating on a computer. So digitization will be much, much faster from now.
Absolutely. Iis, can I ask you next? Sorry, darling. I know everybody can maybe just unmute, and then you have to be ready when I call your name out.
Great. Thanks. Yeah. So to me, I think the pandemic, one of the lessons that the pandemic taught us is that people can be influenced by technology in terms of changing their behaviors. We talked a lot, I think, throughout the conference about nudging and so on. I think this is the era where we can use technology much more to influence people's behavior, to be more responsible in terms of travel. Now, I know your question is about recovery, but I think to me that is one of the key aspects that we need to pay a lot more attention to in terms of the future of travel going forward. And the second thing is this is an opportunity, a great opportunity for us to actually think about how we want travel and tourism industry to be in the future, so in terms of research, it's really looking into not just the affordances of technology for travel, so how technology make different kinds of travel possible, but also looking into at the same time, simultaneously looking into causes and consequences of different travel patterns in the future, and try to simulate things, and so that we can actually do influence whether it's the governments or the industry better from the knowledge that we produce collectively with IFITT.
Thank you, Iis. Lorenzo, and we are down to 1 minute answers now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think, I would second what Iis was suggesting. So we are now in the incredible position of reflecting how should tourism, sustainable tourism really be, because now all of us are stuck at home. So it's important using digital technologies to design better tourism futures and more responsible tourism practices. And I believe IFITT, and thanks to the leadership of Phil and all the others, is here to help in that direction.
Josef, let's hear from you, please, in closing.
Underlining something that was already said, like by Liz, is the fact that this pandemic is not only a game changer in certain fields, it certainly is an accelerator for trends and movements that we have already seen. So in our world, all this climate change, environmental issues, sustainability as such is becoming really important. And we have always tried to prove that tourism is not a separate economy, that is not a business that we have to do behind fences like other industries, that it has to be fully integrated. It is even more shown now how important it is to be fully integrated, like with all this now testing and vaccination issues that we have to get out. At the beginning, our governments everywhere, they had separate strategies, sector by sector, and even not thinking about international travel and movements so much. So we had a lot to learn, painfully sometimes in the last months, I must admit. But to be short, I assume that health security, first of all this integration and acceleration of trends in our living and working world is one thing. But I assume that health security, remote work, online education will become more and more important, also for our tourism and travel industry, and therefore the creation of better and new tools in this R&D, with this R&D focus in this field, could help us a lot.
Thank you, Josef. Hannes, I'd like a little quick answer from you as well on this, if there's anything additional to add.
Do I have 5 seconds or 1 hour?
Yes, no, you have a little bit more, as you are the godfather.
No, I think we will design a resilient system instead of efficient system. I think we will somehow not look at efficiency, but resilience, so we will have fault-tolerant systems. It's important system notion, not individual, but it's the systematic. With that, I think we will have a revival of destinations, because destinations per definition have a systems point of view, what the other industry partners do not have. So I think destinations will be important again. And I think IFITT could play a role, since they are bringing together those different players as well as disciplines. But IFITT would need a somehow reflective power, reflecting also, do we are doing it for the good, or do it just doing for efficiency reasons, could act as a facilitator and mediator. And I think this would be a proper role for IFITT to take over. These were 10 seconds.
That's very, very good. Dimitrios, we are really out of time. I will have to ask Phil to close with the last comment in case we have missed any golden nuggets from him.
Well, I don't think it's golden nuggets, but what I learned from everyone here, I think it's the opportunity. The challenges are huge. The opportunities in the same time are also ripe, right? And now it's probably never been so critical to bring the IT communities and the social science communities together in solving some of the problems, understanding and solving some of the problems we're faced with. for example, starting from behavior, right? And many of our researchers here on the board, have done, Iis, and not just behavior, but also these problems are connected to many social, ethical, for example, issues. And I would love to see, if possible, to see more policymakers on board, right? How we can integrate all these ideas and research findings together to inform the policies. So this could take hours and hours of conversation, but I have the sense that we are moving into that direction, not just from my own personal understanding, but from everyone in this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gents. And Iis, of course, it's been absolutely I have been looking forward to this so much, and you did not disappoint. And I hope to come back in the future and do another one of these. I will, in closing, maybe just say that thank you for the very great insights. We are this year celebrating, as a reminder, the 28th Enter conference. And I would have to say that this must have to do with some excellent leadership from all of you. And I'm sure that is indeed what all of our delegates will agree on as well, now that they have had an opportunity to get to know you and hear from you a little bit better. Now, we are going to be closing in an hour's time. So it's goodbye from all the presidents and myself. And I will be back here in an hour with some closing remarks and also bring Phil and Claudia back in. So I hope to see you all in an hour's time and next year in China. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.